Welcome, Arkansas Razorback fans, to HogvilleNET YouTube Live post-game analysis. This is becoming a broken record. These things are starting to sound identical to each other. It's just been nothing but a bunch of ugly for the Hogs. This two-game road swing after getting knocked around by 32 points at home in the SEC opener against Auburn, the worst ever loss for Arkansas, in nearly 30 years at Bud Walton Arena. Two more double-digit losses. 10, Arkansas had a chance midweek against Georgia. Today, another one of those games where Arkansas really got beat up early, got within a single-digit deficit, 9 points a couple of times late in the first half after going to his own defense and really kind of going to the back end of the rotation and some of the players that got a chance. But early second half, Arkansas falls behind 20 pretty early. Trailed by as many as 25 points, lost by 22, 90-68. Really a high octane Florida team that was a really good offensive team, a really good rebounding team. Those are things we saw today. But a team like Arkansas that started 0-2 in league play. So you had winless SEC teams, and one looked just far superior than the other. And this is just a bad Arkansas Razorbacks basketball team. Let's call it what it is. Another 0-3 start to league play. It's the second time in the last 3 years. You go back to the 21-22 season, the second of back-to-back Elite Eight teams did start 0-3 in league play, and that was part of an actual 5 losses in 6-game stretch because that team also lost to OU by 22 points, and then Hofstra and North Little Rock as part of that streak. In fact, Arkansas' last 4 teams now, 2-4 in the first Elite Eight season to start league play. I mentioned the 5 losses in 6-game stretch, including 0-3 to start league play. The following year, another Elite Eight run. Last season, Arkansas started 1-5 in league play. Had a big 5-game winning streak in the middle of SEC action, including that big 15-point win, a quad one win at Kentucky. That team was up and down. It never got on track like the previous 2 years. 8-10 SEC finish, 10th place in the SEC. Did well in postseason, though, and made it to the Sweet 16. So we know that the last 3 Arkansas teams started really poorly in SEC play. What separates this team are more than one thing. Someone just put out just one of the comments, Musselman's fault. Well, he's partly to blame. Everything starts at the top. He certainly is. In fact, he's also been the guy that's helped Arkansas turn things around after all those bad starts I mentioned in SEC play. He's been the engineer on getting those things fixed. I think there's a lot more to fix here. And don't forget, Arkansas lost 3 out of 4 games in November, just November. Arkansas had never lost more than 2 games total in non-conference play under Musselman. 3 games in November, blowout against Oklahoma in December. Arkansas got on a little bit of a run there, won 5 out of 6, including that Oklahoma loss, but beat a top 10 ranked Duke team to start that run. And then you get into SEC play, and you've lost these 3 games now by a combined margin of 64 points. It averages out to 21.3 points per game, losing margins in your first 3 SEC games. Again, 22 points today is your deficit at the end against Florida. 32 points at home against Auburn. You trailed by double digits in both halves against Georgia on the road. Trailed by 10 at halftime and lost by 10. This is, so when you add everything up at 9-7, 0-3 in SEC play, this is as bad as it's been under Musselman. When you factor in, it's not just a poor start to SEC play. It was a poor November, a spotty December, even though the record was a winning record in a handful of games. Again, the LU loss was ugly, and Arkansas really struggled in most of those games against mid-major teams. Obviously, the win over Duke is the best win of the season, but it's so far away, late November, and there's so many bad losses. Arkansas now, when I say bad losses, it's scoreboard, it's quad one. Arkansas is 1-4 in quad one, 0-2 in quad two. I think they're 3-1 in quad 3 games, and 5-0 in quad 4. I mean, the resume is awful. Arkansas came in ranked 107th in net today. Getting beat this soundly might mean it moves a little bit to the negative. It may not move a lot. It was a quad 1 win opportunity for the Hogs because Florida, despite the 0-2 start to league play, even a 10-4 record coming in, 10-5 record coming in, the Hogs had a chance to pick up a quad 1 win by virtue of it being a road game and Florida being inside the top 60 at 59 in net. All you need is a road win against quad 1 through 75, and you can pick it net 1 through 75, and you pick up a quad one win. So Arkansas misses another opportunity there. This is just, I mean, this is an Arkansas team that, I mean, out of the gates. I mean, Arkansas goes up 7-5. Davenport hit an early three. Trevor Brazil hits a three. Originally counted as two. They upgraded it to a three. Arkansas was up 7-5, and then a Florida, what was it, a 22-2 run or a 24-5 run. Florida goes up by 19 points, and really it was just Arkansas's man-to-man defense was so spotty and leaky. Just clean drives all the way to the basket for dunks, offensive rebounds and putbacks. You name it. I mean, they couldn't defend the three. Guys getting their runner and floater game going, just getting by defenders. Matador defense, Arkansas players reaching or flat-footed or turning their hips north and south and letting guys get downhill. Not keeping any positional integrity, getting east and west and using footwork to wall off drives. I mean, and then on offense, Arkansas's back to missing layups and dunks and free throws. It was just you're almost spellbound by how bad it is. And then Musselman decides to go to his own defense kind of late in that first half. He brings in Pinion, brings in Blocker. I thought Davenport did some good things, particularly in that first half. And Arkansas was able to get it within 9. You saw Arkansas's own defense actually lead to some hustle play wins, some steals and deflections and a block shot here and there. And Arkansas was able to run out a little bit in transition. But again, just too many problems. And then, Florida had answers for that zone. Started shooting over a little bit, found the soft spots, built the lead up to, I think, 15 at the close of the first half. Mark scores for Arkansas on an up and under move to get it down to 13 at the break. But then Florida just breezes to a quick 20-point lead kind of early in that second half. And then it was just really it was academic at that point. And Arkansas never got within single digit. It was always a double-digit lead. Nice cushions for Florida. Again, winning going away, led by as many as 25 points, 22-point win. This is an awful Arkansas team when you look at it defensively. Came in today ranked 95th in defensive efficiency and Ken Palm's ratings. That probably, and again, I failed to check. Ken Palm usually updates as you go. So I didn't check before I came on. I keep forgetting to do that to see if Arkansas, for the time being, moved outside the top 100 in defensive efficiency, but it was awful. I mean, when you look at the numbers for Florida, 33 of 67 from the field, another huge game on field goal attempts because Arkansas gets killed on the offensive glass. And then one way or another, the turnover game doesn't help Arkansas and leads to more shots for opponents, even though today Arkansas won that. It was too lopsided in other areas. We're going to go through it. 33 of 67 for Florida, 49.3%. Conversely, Arkansas, 23 of 61. 10 fewer field goals made, 6 fewer taken, 37.7% for the Hogs. So 11, 12 percentage point advantage there overall shooting. Arkansas was 5 of 15 from 3. Not very good. 4 of 8 at halftime, 50%. Dismal inside the arc, but 4 of 8 from 3. Arkansas can never get 1 or 2 to work together in these conference games. They're okay from 2, but not from 3 tonight. Okay from 3 in the first 20 minutes, not so good inside the arc. And then, when you look at 5 of 15 overall for the game, 33.3%. The Hogs were 1 of 7 from 3 in that second half, where Florida really put its stamp on this big win. Arkansas 17 to 25 at the foul line, 68%. It's been identical back-to-back games now. Georgia and now Florida, where they're in the 68 percentile. Not good enough. Arkansas was 5 of 11 at the line at the halftime when Florida had built that lead. And so Arkansas did better late in the game when it was over and the scoreboard was academic. Pressure's not on guys at that point. And you saw Leighton Blocker get to the foul line and finally get kind of in a little bit of a rhythm there. Got some playing time tonight. But again, Eric Musselman empties the bench. Everybody plays, not including the traditional walk-on types. Did those guys check in? I took my eyes off the screen in the last minute or so. 15 to 20 at the foul line, by the way, for Florida, 75%. 9 of 25 for the Gators from 3, 36%. Back-to-back games where Arkansas has given up 9 3-pointers to its opponents. and knocking down, half or less or a third of what the opponents were able to do from three. I mentioned 10 fewer field goals overall. The percentages were way in Florida's advantage. And then we look at rebounds. 48-31. We knew this was a strong rebounding team. Plus 17 on the glass, plus 6 in offensive rebounds, 15-9. The Gators were 17-8, plus 9 in second chance points, plus 10 in points in the paint, 38-28. Florida had 12 assists. Arkansas back in single digits on the assist with 8. You only made 23 field goals, so you didn't even assist on half of those. Arkansas did eventually, first half, Florida was plus 1 in both turnovers and points off turnovers. Arkansas did a better job in the second half in a game that was really, it's kind of a worthless stat at that point because Arkansas was never in striking range in that second half. But Arkansas ends up plus 3 in turnovers, 12-9, plus 7 in points off turnovers, 13-6. Thank goodness for that, or this is a 30-point loss. Arkansas was plus 1 in the blocks department. We know Arkansas is an elite shot blocking team, but only plus 1 there, 8-7. And Arkansas's bench outscored Florida's bench 36-29. Ryan Kugel, 20 points off the bench. Florida's leading scorer and the high point man of the game. Even tells you that Florida's bench was actually better. It's a little misleading stat because a lot of that came from guys like Blocker and Pinion, and which let's give those guys some credit. They made the most of their opportunities in the minutes they were given. Blocker led Arkansas with 14 points, 4 of 7 from the field. He has really struggled lately. His aggressiveness is always there. He's a tough kid, a hard-nosed kid, but struggling to finish layups. As the game moved on, he got better in that department. 4 of 7 overall from the field. He's still not a guy that's a threat shooting from range. 0 of 1 from 3, so he didn't take a lot. 6 of 10 at the foul line. He got better there. I think he started 1 of 4. So he made 5 of his last 6. So it's good to see that from Blocker. 4 rebounds, a couple of steals, an assist, a block, only 1 turnover in 24 minutes. And he actually had a box score plus 2. Again, stats sometimes can be misleading because you're not in a position to challenge anymore. And so, how much is the other team taking its foot off the gas? That also comes into play. Davenport, most of his damage in the first half. He finishes with the 13 points, 2 of 3 from 3, 5 of 7 at the line. Made his last 3 free throw attempts, 3 assists. He got all that in the first half. 1 steal in 25 minutes, but a box minus 25. Joseph Pinion, 12 points. Also, like Blocker, playing off the bench, 3 of 7 from the field, 2 of 4 from 3. Very good free throw shooter, 4 of 4 at the line for Joseph. 2 rebounds and assists, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, 2 turnovers in his 21 minutes. Only box minus 1 in 21 minutes. All right, so he and Blocker, did some decent work in there and helped Arkansas a little bit. I thought both of them had some defensive lapses as well, but who doesn't on this team? It's all hands on deck with the defensive lapses. Comically speaking, it's almost like there's a competition to who can give up the worst play to the opposition on offense, who can get out of the way and watch a guy go in and dunk with nobody. It's like the parting. It's not even the parting of the sea. You can't even see the sea. There is no Red Sea. It's just guys getting to the rim at will. You don't even see guys getting out of the way anymore. They're just not even on the screen. Where are they? I'm not sure. Jalen Graham, I thought it was a poor game for Graham. 10 points, 4 of 9 from the field, 2 of 4 at the line, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks, 21 minutes. I guess other guys were worse. Tremont Mark, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, a block, a turnover in 29 minutes. You're seeing more and more of the hustle stats from Mark, but he's just, he's a methodical one-on-one player in a game against a Hog team where the ball moves well for Florida on one end, and you're playing a Matador defense. You need a crisper offense, and I think sometimes Mark bogs that down a little bit. But his production was there. 6 of 14 in the field, not great. 50% from 2, 0 of 2 from 3 there. So Arkansas gets 5 players in double-figure scoring in a game where it scored 68 points. That tells you a lot of those guys have not been your scorers. Blocker, Davenport, and Pinion. Graham and Mark, 12 and 10, that's about right lately. Although Mark's points were down relative to his season average and what he's been able to do in some games, especially the 24 points against Georgia. Let's not leave that out. But Trevor Brazile continues to struggle. 7 points. He did have a team high 7 rebounds today. But multiple turnovers, 3 turnovers. Just really struggled shooting the ball. He did get up a more of a volume of shots today, 10 shot field goal attempts, but he didn't make enough. Only 3. And then, you look around at guys like, Caleb Battle, who continues to struggle, only played 2 or 3 minutes. The old Ellis 2 or 3 minute experiment, scoreless again, missed a layup. Battle missed a little close range shot. You saw Keon Minifield Jr., who was such a spark to close out non-conference play. He actually had a good first half against Auburn. He scored, he assisted. Arkansas had a 1-point lead going to that under 4-minute timeout, and then Auburn closed the first half with an 8-point, outscoring Arkansas by 8 points in those final 4 minutes, led by 7 at the break. But Minifield actually had a decent half and finished the game, although it wasn't a good game from him. He did have a double-digit game in scoring, in a 32-point loss. But the last 2 games, he hasn't scratched, and he didn't play much today, 2 or 3 minutes. You look at it, Chandler Lawson checked in and checked out. I mean, he didn't play he didn't do much. Mekhi Mitchell, missing a layup early in the game, missing, he's just, I think he had 3 blocks today. He had a cut 2 or 3 hustle plays. He had maybe 3 or 4 rebounds. But not really another, I think it's been back-to-back bad games for him. He was back in the starting lineup, 2nd game in a row, Arkansas on the road. Arkansas is 0-2 in road games, 2-5 playing away from Bud Walton Arena. And really, 1-5 if you look at it from neutral site plus road games, because the North Little Rock result, even though it wasn't at Bud Walton Arena, counts as a home game result. That narrow win over Lipscomb back in December, according to net and the way that you look at, you value net rankings, and that's a neutral site game. So Arkansas has not been great at home. And certainly now when you look at it, neutral site and road games, pretty ugly. You go back. I mean, Arkansas, in this game, again, they got within 9 after falling behind so big, 19 points. I think it was 29-10, went to a zone, and Arkansas had so it was 29-10. Arkansas had a 12-3 run there to get within 10, 32-22. And Pinion scored 5 points on the back end of that run. He hit a catch and shoot 3. Then he had a nice little drive baseline and got a little bank shot to go in, and Florida took a timeout. Arkansas got within 10. The Hogs would actually get within 9 twice after that, but again, Florida expanded that. So let's start getting to some of these comments. What would it take for Arkansas to get? Well, they fade off so fast. By the time I see them come up, get my glasses on, they fade. I'm going to read through them. Thank you for joining me, by the way. HogvilleNet YouTube Live, my sponsors. I want to thank them. Jose's Bar and Grill in Tawnytown, and Fence Brokers Inc. here in Central Arkansas. Thanking my sponsors. What would it take for Arkansas to get onto the bubble? 5 to 6 quad 1 wins. Give Chris Beard whatever he wants. I'm done with this freak show. Okay, a couple of interesting comments there. A couple of different individuals. Thank you for being here, by the way, and putting your 2 cents in. Yeah, Arkansas's going to have to win a lot of games now. And quad 1, they're going to have plenty of quad 1 win opportunities. And they just can't afford bad losses. Now, bad losses also start to hurt you in net when you get destroyed like this. So you're going to have to figure out a way not to right now, Arkansas is looking like a bad loss for most teams. Arkansas is one of those bad loss teams. There aren't a whole lot of those opportunities. You're going to need a lot of quad 1 wins. And I think Arkansas now at 9-7, 0-3 in league play. I think this team would somehow need to get on a run and go, win 10 or maybe 11 of their last 15 games. We're 16 games in. There's 15 left. We're just slightly above halfway point. Someone just said we have to go 10-5 to get to the tournament. So that's what I'm saying. They need to go 10-5 or 11. I didn't see that comment when I said it. 10-5, maybe 11-4 the rest of the way to go into the SEC tournament. In my opinion, with a feeling good about an at-large opportunity and maybe still needing to do work once you get in there. 4-14 will be the SEC record. We'll see. That's a potential. There's a potential for that. Yeah, I mean, you start looking at the schedule, and this is a really good, balanced SEC. Georgia's a good team. Tennessee had to fight back. Terrible team, consistent. Well, consistent but terrible, right? Consistently bad. And it starts on defense. The offense is clunky. Too many missed layups, too many missed free throws when you were trying. You made up some at the foul line, but 68% is not good enough when you can't. The hustle plays, man. Arkansas just gets beaten too many of these categories, and then when the shooting efficiency and the discrepancies there in that non-conference stretch where Arkansas won 5 out of 6, that's where Arkansas was finding ways to win because they weren't really winning hustle battles, offensive glass, turnovers, fast break, which is part of their hustle game because getting out in transition, defending it takes a lot, but also a lot of that comes off live ball turnovers and just kind of willing your way and being tough. And Arkansas hasn't been that. But Arkansas was, shooting 10 percentage points or better at home in a lot of those games, including against Duke, from inside the arc and from three. And sometimes had the cushions at the free throw line. This is a team that fouls a lot. It fouls a lot. But Arkansas shot 5 more free throws today, but that's a little misleading too. It's not enough of a cushion. Only made 2 more because of the discrepancies in efficiency. So there wasn't enough there to help Arkansas overcome all these other problem areas. But the shooting discrepancies these last few games have just buried Arkansas. And that's why you see a combined 64-point margin in the losing column. Guys, I mentioned it when I started this podcast, this YouTube live tonight. Arkansas's overcome these bad starts in SEC play. But this isn't just a bad start in SEC play. It was a bad November. It wasn't a great December, despite what the record said. Sometimes they say you are what your record says you are. When you look at the totality of it, 9-7, 0-3 is exactly right. When you look at Arkansas winning 5 out of 6, 5-1 in that stretch, I don't really know if Arkansas was what that record says it was because it had to hold on for dear life, against teams that were really inferior when you looked at it from a personnel and talent standpoint. I still think Arkansas's got pieces here to be a good basketball team. I can't believe I'm saying that. Does anybody want to hear Purdue and Duke anymore? Is anybody willing to go there? It's really impossible to even understand how Arkansas found ways to win those games. Yeah, Purdue didn't count. Boy, it sure felt like it did. I was there. That was a big time atmosphere, but Arkansas there is a lack of belief and buy-in. This is another thing, man. This is on the head coach. You got a ton of Division I experience. At what point are you telling yourself, okay, was it all bad Division I experience and they're just too set in their ways and too many bad habits? The lack of effort. Some of the guys that are returning, Devo Davis has been at the pinnacle with Musselman. He's been there every step of the way. What's happened to him? No, 0 points. He didn't even bring his name up. Played 11 minutes today. Another one of those games where he was just ineffective. Even when Arkansas had some decent, first 28 seconds of shot clock defense, they'd bail Florida out with a late clock foul. Send them to the foul line or give them extended clock and extended possession. It's almost like Keystone Cops. You can point to everything. Getting out of the way of drives. Getting manhandled on the glass for putbacks and second chance opportunities. Just getting okey-doked on ball movement and guys just putting the ball on the deck and getting by guys, getting into the spots they want. The transition defense was awful. Arkansas ends up 14 all, ties in the second half, gets a good second half in transition. But again, the game's over at the point where Arkansas started to kind of maybe try to pull even in some of these categories. It was advantage Florida at halftime in transition and fast break. And then on offense, again, 8 assists. The ball's not, even when you do have some decent ball movement and guys cutting to the basket, they're not finishing layups. And then if they get fouled, they're not making free throws. What can you do here? What can you do here to turn the corner? Eric Musselman's been he has been the common denominator every year and getting things fixed. He's the guy that recruits and brings in the available talent, what's on the roster. That's on him. It's on him to figure it out. It's also on players to buy in, or the coach to help them buy in. I don't see a lot of buy-in. I'm not seeing a lot of buy-in. This is more than just inept players. I'm not seeing buy-in. Who's buying in? Who's selling you on the fact consistently that they're bought into what's going on out here and what the expectation is? I'm not seeing it. That's on the head coach as much as it is anybody else. You got to find ways. Musselman's been an expert at that. 3 years running. Now we're at a fourth season. It's okay to point the finger at him. He's had a lot of success. And he had some bad spots in there with some of his teams, and he got them to figure it out. He got them to buy in. He pushed the right buttons. It just hasn't been there. Everybody sees the floor in both halves just about in every game. That's a bad sign for a guy that loves a 7-8 rotation with really, once you get in SEC play, only 5 or 6 of those guys getting real minutes. They're nowhere near that. And it's this team is not trending in a way that you see, okay, Musselman can do this, Musselman can try this, Musselman maybe can tweak this. They're not that far away. Somebody tell me. Sorry about that. I was getting for whatever reasons, the NBA dads call me while I'm doing these. They're locked in on the games tonight. I had a chance, by the way, to be in Oklahoma City today for the Thunder Magic to see Anthony Black, Jalen Williams, Isaiah Joe, but my first priority is covering the Razorbacks. I'm going to miss that one. But yeah, there is nobody on this team that tells me they're ready to buy in and lead the way. Devo Davis needs to be a leader. Trevor Brazile needs to be a leader, at least by example and production and effort and steady improvement. I mean, his rebounding's gotten a little bit better in these last few games relative to what it was in a pocket of games and way before when he had those 3 double-doubles, in 4-game span, including 19, 11, and 2 against Duke. It hasn't gotten to that point, obviously. It's a little bit better. Tremont Mark's got a few more check boxes and hustle plays. Leighton Blocker continues to show when given minutes. He's going to battle and play really hard. He does make a ton of freshman mistakes. He's not the most gifted offensive player. That's okay if he had 2 or 3 other tough guys around him that wanted to go to war. But I just, I don't see. I'm not seeing it, guys. I'm kind of all over the map here because that's what this team has been. They're lazy. I'm ready to buy in Chris Beard. And when I say buy in, I'm talking about look at the body language. Look at the lack of effort. Guys who are buying into a system, which Musselman's always been able to do. I mean, don't forget these last 3 teams. It's not like he was bringing back the same team every year and they just happen to be good on the defensive end, finishing 10th, 11th, and 17th nationally in adjusted defensive efficiency. He's remade his roster. Devo Davis is the one guy in these previous 3 seasons who came back. A lot of different moving parts around him. And what did they do? They solved problems, and it started defensively, and they got really good on that end. Really good. And what that tells you is no matter who the newcomers were or what they thought they were as players coming in, at some point there were reality checks that Musselman was able to show them, convince them of, and get them to buy in. 0 buy-in on this team. This is not a voice of anger. I'm trying to put emphasis on the point for my own humor. I'm convinced that this is a team that's lacking buy-in, and I think it's unsettling that a guy like Devo Davis, who was, a preseason All-SEC pick, an all-defensive team guy last year, Trevor Brazile, first-team All-SEC pick, National Player of the Year preseason watch lists. To me, I'm not feeling it just from those 2 guys in terms of follow me. Tremont Mark, he's, like I said, he's made some slight improvements in a couple of things here and there, but I'm still seeing some really, really poor decision-making on him defensively. Like he'll try to dig down against a blind side and completely lose integrity on his ball man coverage or getting back. And some of those are just uncalled for. He gets out of the way. Drivers are able to just push him to the rim. So I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not just picking on certain, but those are your three guys to me that you had to build around. L. Ellis vanished pretty quick in the season. Now we've seen Caleb Battle, who was a pretty reliable scorer and usually efficient. Where is he now? Out of there. Davenport in the last two games, we looked at the first half today, the effort, some of the things he was doing, and what he did some against Georgia. You could argue, I mean, here's a guy, but 0 rebounds today. He battled on the glass against Georgia, not as much today. He did have 3 assists, some of that in transition when Arkansas got within 9. Hit a couple of threes in the first half, got to the foul line, was aggressive a little bit. It's just, I mean, every game, if you do anything, you're going to be able to pick out 2 or 3 little positives, maybe 4 or 5. It's just not enough. There's no glue. Chandler Lawson looked like a glue guy in preseason in some of Arkansas's early games. Looked like an effective glue guy. He's kind of vanished. I'm not. I mean, Graham elevated some of his play in non-conference play, and his efficiency was there. He's become less efficient, and he's a matador defender as well. 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks on the surface looks all right. If he gets fouled, he's not going to make free throws. He goes 2 of 4 today. That was a good day. Now, he did hit 75% and on a low volume there when Arkansas won 5 out of 6, and he was 75% from the field. He did, he hasn't been good in league play. Nobody has. I'm calling everybody out, I guess. It is what it is. Is it turning into one of those things? It is what it is. 32 minutes in, I have preached and whined and bitched and moaned, and I've got no answers other than this is a bad basketball team right now. And some of those stretches too, when they played poorly in previous seasons, they weren't very good. I don't know if it was this bad because I always felt like I could see 2 or 3 things that were starting to work. You could see really the light coming on, and you just needed 2 or 3 more to get it, and that's what happened. Right now, it's just not. There's no consistency of that, and whenever there's an Eric Musselman team where everybody's hitting the floor pretty much in both halves, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, babe. Yeah, and so these mock drafts continue. These NBA mock drafts continue to show Trevor Brazile as a first rounder, and a big reason for that is simply because of a combination of things. 6'10" with 7'4" wingspan, has a good his percentages, his efficiency has been fine until today. When you look at it on the season, efficiency has been there, volume not so much. And he's got he's a big time leaper. There's potential there. And so a lot of what the draft is about is potential, not necessarily what you're seeing production in college and some of that stuff. Right now, I'll give you an example. Nick Smith Jr. hurt himself by sticking with Arkansas. He should have stayed. Once he was hurt, honestly, for himself, he should have stayed out. He tried to come back. Valiant effort on his part. He helped Arkansas. The games he played in, he helped Arkansas for the most part. That team doesn't make an NCAA tournament without him. But it hurt his draft stock. He went from high-end lottery to back into first round, but he's already doing things in the NBA he never showed in 17 or so games at Arkansas. The floor spaced on that level. And he's gotten stronger. He's gotten his knee stronger. He's added strength. I don't think he's still 100% because he's not the same rim attacker he was before the knee injury. He's going to get there. But the NBA is a different game. And Trevor Brazile, I don't know what he'll project. I don't know what he'll do once he's there. And he's a guy that might continue to slide if he doesn't pick it up. He might slide out of a first-round projection. But despite some of his trouble areas and recent mock drafts coming out in the last few days, he's still projected as a first-rounder. In fact, early to mid-20s in some of them. So, that's early 20s to mid-20s, not early not lottery. And some of those NBA draft guys, or excuse me, some of those scouts and NBA front office guys that were at Arkansas's, pro day back in October just based on one performance. Now we know whatever live 5-on-5 they saw Brazil was going up against other Arkansas players. It's a bad defensive team. And I think the idea is, wow, he must be really good on offense because Arkansas defensively has been really good under Musselman. Might not have been as obvious that day in a small sample size that it's just a bad team defensively, and because it's been that. It's just been a bad. That's the thing that's worst is the defense. The offense hasn't been good yet in SEC play. I guess a half against Georgia when Arkansas gave itself a chance by pulling within 3. But overall, it's been pretty awful on both ends in league play. And that's how you explain 32-point loss, 10-point loss, 22-point loss. Arkansas comes home against an A&M team that hasn't lived up to its full expectations, but did beat Kentucky, a team that might have been poised to move up to number 1. Kentucky at home today in overtime. So Arkansas's got a short turnaround. Both teams do. Both now, A&M traveling for a road game, at Arkansas traveling to get back home for a home game. Tuesday is that start at 8 o'clock. It's on SEC Network. 8 o'clock tip off, assuming the game that hits prior to that ends on time. Probably won't. But usually it starts 10 minutes or so after the hour. So we'll see what Arkansas does against A&M. I got a bad feeling that Arkansas will have its first 0-4 start in league play under Eric Musselman. The 0-3 start matches what the Hogs did 2 years ago. It's the worst start through 3 games that Arkansas has had in league play under Musselman, as bad as the collective starts in other seasons were. This matches the worst. And if the Hogs lose, at home to A&M, it'll be the worst start through 4 games under Musselman in SEC play. And again, when you pair it up with the 4 losses through non-conference action, you're 9-8 and 0-4 in SEC play. But again, Arkansas probably does need to go 10-5 the rest of the way, maybe 11-4 before you get into league play to feel like an at-large bid is viable. I guess the right combinations of wins and losses. If Arkansas could get to 10-8 in league play going in the SEC tournament, maybe they're on the bubble with a shot at playing their way in with a win or 2 or something like that. I mean, projections like that are kind of meaningless when you don't know what other teams that you're comparing yourselves to resumes wise are doing at that point of the season also. Right now, Arkansas hasn't had a bubble resume in weeks. That's how bad it's been. All right, almost 38 minutes in. I'm going to cut it short. I guess call it cutting it short tonight. I only went about 30 last week, a few days ago, midweek when it was the loss at Georgia. So we're a little over that. Sometimes I go an hour. We're not going to do that tonight. Arkansas loses 0-3. It's the Razorbacks have started in SEC play. Someone's literally pissed off about the lack of effort. That's a fair comment. I wanted to read that one before we left. There was more to it. I mean, it's what it looks like. I mean, I call it buy-in. That's part of it. When you see guys effectively quitting on plays, that it's just letting go of the road, man. It's not. And the other thing I haven't talked about here, and I should have, I meant to. Musselman keeps talking about in these press conferences. I haven't seen the post-game press conference yet, but he keeps talking about how good their practices are, how they're getting things done, and the team responds, and they like each other. And I think that's not a positive. That's not a positive. I guess it would be worse if it was really ugly in practice to go along with the games. But I think it's a negative still. It may not be as big of a negative. How much of a problem is that? If things look good in practice, and this is the carryover in what you get in games, and it's consistently like that, that tells you that something about the practice isn't right. Or this is, if you're feeling good about what you're seeing there, and this is what it translates to, something's wrong there. And I know Musselman's talked about it. He's tried changing the scout preparation. They've done more live. They went back to 2-a-days. They did. It's not like he's not changing things up, but it is a problem if things look good in practice and this is the result. That's not a positive in my opinion. Something's amiss. Something's not right. There's all kinds of rumors swirling in the background about moves that might be coming up at the end of the year. I guess I opened that can of worms while I said I was signing off here 40 minutes into it, but I'll leave that teaser there. We'll revisit that at some point. We'll see how rumors can be. I'm getting the same rumor over and over and over again with basketball people behind the scenes, and so doesn't quite measure up to where some of the things I'm hearing from some of the money boosters. So that's interesting. I know which side I probably fall on, but we'll talk more about that later. I guess said too much. A little over 40 minutes in, we're going to part ways. 0-3 starts SEC play for the second time in 3 years. Arkansas, it's become a tradition. Poor starts in league play. Unfortunately, Arkansas's also got the wounds and bandages from bad runs in November, even December. As this could be as bad as it's been since, really the John Pelphrey era. I think there's a potential for that. I think there is a potential for that this year. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. I'm going to get away from these comments. All right, signing off. Arkansas loses at Florida, 90-68. It's back to Fayetteville, where you try to improve on your last outing, where you lost by a record 32 points. Until then, Tuesday night, pre and post, maybe just post game. See you then.